Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and I'm back with my breakdown of my 6 shorts for the week. And this week I got interested in resultant melodies. We've been talking about melody, how to build a narrative from melody, but not all melodies are storytelling. Sometimes they can be the result of algorithmic interactions, complicated melodic patterns that fit together to create longer phrases, and they have real value and a lot of appeal to me as well. So we'll look at 6 short examples of, how I do that on piano, easily transferable to other orchestrations as well. Let's dive in. Well, first of all, if this is the second or third video of mine that you've seen and you're getting something out of the channel and you're not subscribed, and I know most of the people who look at this channel are not subscribers, now's the time to subscribe. Just hit that button. I don't think you'll be sorry. Keep coming back and check out some of the other material. There's tons of analyses of songs, new ideas for music, things like that. It's music theory, yeah, but it's not academic music theory. It's the kind of music theory that I wish that I'd had when I was getting going. Help me just to kind of get done what I needed to get done. I hope this is music theory for everyone, and I hope to support you in developing your own ideas about how music works, what it means to you, and what it means to your music. Okay, so I really want to dive into these things. Let me play you my first example, and then we'll break it down. And because this stuff is kind of complicated, I'll let you know that we're also going to shoot from overhead, so you'll have a chance to see hand over hand and how these things kind of like play out at a physical level on the keyboard. Okay, here we go. So my first example is 2 interacting patterns. So there's a right-hand pattern in 3 notes and a left-hand pattern in 2, or the other way around. And they play at the same time. Now, it's not just a simple 3/2. It's actually a complicated polyrhythm, and we'll talk about it in a second. But one hand stays the same, and the other one changes, and we get this interaction. So rhythmically, there's something interesting going on, and physically, there's something interesting going on. So if I do this with my left hand, these 3 notes, and this with my right, my hands are one on top of the other. You see how that works out? And that interaction of the hands is interesting just in and of itself. So if I did 3 notes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, against 2 notes, 1, 2, 1, 2, I'd get a pattern that was 6 beats long. But that's not what's happening. So what I'll do is I'll do my 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, with 2 notes in the left hand, and my 2 with 3 notes in the right. 1, and I get this great shape. It's kind of cool. Now, what happens is I get essentially what I like to think of as a modally saturated sound, like with a bunch of notes all at once, kind of all sounding at the same time. And the net result is this kind of lovely effect of the interaction of the parts. I hope you get it. Let's go on to the second example. My second example relies on a very simple interference of periodicity. The left hand has 3 notes repeated, and the right hand over the top has 4 repeated. It's a 12-note phrase, but I'm not playing them at the same time. I'm not going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and at the same time 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be kind of chunky. Instead, I'm drumming the hands. I'll show you from overhead. So 3 notes, 4 notes. It's a great effect. And, it's hard to practice. If you want to practice something like this, just start with maybe 2 notes, like start with this. And then do 3 against it. So and you can hear the resultant melody popping out on the top. Now, practicing that takes time, and I've spent a little bit of time working on doing it. I think maybe if you spend some time working on it, you could do it too. Also, you can just draw the darn thing in. Now, what makes this piece interesting is how the notes change. There, you can see what's happening. So, an interference of periodicity. And then we change the notes in each hand. We've got a different color scale, a different terrain. This is a very saturated sound because the hands interlock. It's actually hard to do this stuff without writing it out and thinking about it a little bit ahead of time. But when you get used to changing terrains, it can be manageable. For instance, something simple like this terrain can be changed to a new terrain simply by asking myself, what if this was in the key of not, say C, because all white keys here, but rather C minor? Well, I would have to change some notes. E would become E flat, A would become A flat, B would become B flat. And suddenly I've got just a very different sound, right? So this and this sounds kind of an E flat major sound. I know I can tell what's going to happen. And then back to the C major, why not? Just to hear it. C minor. Change the sonority by simply respelling each note to fit a new scale. Let's go to the next example. My next example is a piece of mine that, I have a full version of. It's called Subtle Edge, but the nature of the piece, it really fits into what we're talking about because the left hand creates a melody against a simple, repeated right hand figure. I'm just going to go right to the overhead camera and show you how this thing works, and then we'll maybe listen to some of it. In this piece, the right hand does something very simple. It's just a easy descending D minor triad. And the left hand is going to fit in a low D and then tuck in to the middle of that triad. You see how my hand comes up underneath my right? Now, that effect is beautiful. And again, it's the simplest kind of one rhythm over another, a 2, not a polyrhythm, but against 3, 2 over 3, so to speak. So you see how it works? I'm drumming the hands, and we hear the D as a repetitive note in its own layer. And then up on top, we have this little melody that we get with the E and the D and the F. And then the A fits in beautifully. Now, if I just change the bass note, I get the effect of the song. And just that simple trick of just changing the bass note, walking down like this. And I admit that's a bit of a stretch, but still doable. Starts with a ninth and then goes to a tenth against that simple triad. That's what makes the whole thing tick. There's definitely a melody, but it's a resultant melody. It's a melody that arises from the interaction of the parts. It doesn't have the same kind of drama, or the drama or the storytelling that it does have is a result of the way the terrains, the landscape of the chords, so to speak, or the sonorities, because it's modally saturated, the way they work together. Let's go on. Of course, all these pieces are just little things that I do as examples, but sometimes I write out stuff and really think hard about what I'm doing. And our next piece is called Jacob's Ladder. The left hand has simple notes, and the right hand has a figure. And the two hands interact in a great way. So these happen together. And you hear how the first note on top sounds like it's part of the melody, and as the triplet figure comes in, we get that effect. I want to show you what it looks like from the overhead camera. So the left hand has two notes, the right hand. So together, and if you've ever played Bach's Prelude No. 1 in C, this figure may be familiar to you. Let's look at it on the screen. The long tones become part of a melody that interacts with the three-note pattern. The chord tones and the sustained tones create a resultant melody. And you can hear the drama of this, or the story of it, if there is one, comes really only from the progression, from the shifting sonorities. Let's go on. Our next example is another interlocking hands pattern, and it's a simple interference of periodicity pattern. The left hand has an ascending D minor arpeggio, 4 notes, 3 notes really, there's a couple of A's, and the right hand sort of comes in over the top and plays this C triad against it. Let's take a look at how it might look from above. So here's this ascending figure, very simple. And then the right hand will play a descending figure, also simple. And we have those 4 notes, really only 3 notes since there are 2 A's, and these 3 from the C. And really, when you think about it, it's a D minor triad and a C triad right next to each other. This is called a hexachord, 6 notes from some mode or scale. If you throw away one of the half-step notes, throw away the B in this case, you get a pleasing sonority which still has some bite. By now you understand, I think, how I'm doing this, but it takes a while to practice it. And it takes more than a little time to practice changing scales as you do it. Let's listen to it, and you'll see what I mean. So here's that D minor sound, and then suddenly it's a D flat Lydian sound, basically. So pretty. And then back again, shifting between these two. It's kind of a slip technique. A major, right? The computer recognizes it correctly. I love working like this. It's a great texture, isn't it? Maybe we add another melody over the top. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's so beautiful and really kind of fun to try. Let's go to our last example. Our last example is something I've been doing since I was like, a teenager playing piano, which is just to create a simple rhythmic pattern in one hand and then just play off beats against it in the right. And you can see what that looks like on the screen. Just a rocking motion in one hand, and then over the top, a new melody from the same scale. It feels a little like weirdly syncopated, and that rocking motion in the left hand is a steady thing, but it starts to integrate into the melody, right? I'll show you what it looks like kind of from overhead. So here's my rocking left hand, and over the top I come on upbeats. That's what's happening in this one. Love this effect. So I hope this has been useful. Listen, as patterns interfere with each other, they create new melodies. Like the interaction of the parts is kind of what it's all about, right? It's not a dramatic arc. It's more of a space, a vibe. It's more of a sonority. And those sonorities create like a feeling place. I love playing like this. It's fun to sit around. It's actually kind of good for your hands. If you're a piano player, it's second nature. You got the two hands, right? I think it's a little bit harder to do this kind of thing on guitar, but with finger picking, it's possible. Well, listen, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe, as I asked you at the beginning of the video. Ding the bell to be notified when I put something new up. I'll see you next time.